Thank you very much. Mr. Vice President, Excellencies, colleagues. It's a pleasure to provide one oral report and to introduce 9 written reports of the Secretary General and High Commissioner for Human Rights on a range of thematic issues to be considered under items 2 and 3. Let me start by presenting OHCHR's oral report to the Human Rights Council on the implementation of the United Nations Disability Inclusion Strategy across its programs and operations as requested in the Human Rights Council Resolution 4912. As reported to the Secretary General, the Office has improved performance on 2 indicators. First, on evaluations, we are now exceeding requirements after conducting a meta-review of evaluation findings. And second, with regard to country program documents, we are now approaching requirements after creating guidelines for country programs to mainstream disability inclusion. In all other parts of the implementation strategy, the Office has maintained its performance as previously reported. We continue to exceed requirements on indicators relating to leadership, disability-specific policy, reasonable accommodation, and joint initiatives. OHCHR's senior management remains supportive of the ongoing efforts to actively champion disability inclusion in the work of the organization. OHCHR's disability rights strategy and its related annual work plans continue to guide strategic action and the implementation of UNDIS. The implementation of the reasonable accommodation system remains challenging, as provision of reasonable accommodation requires implementation of system-wide actions to complement action by individual entities. OHCHR continues to work with other UN entities. The most recent joint initiatives focus on care and support systems, working with ILO, UNDP, UNICEF, UNFPA, and UN Women. We continue to meet the requirements in the areas of institutional setup as well as capacity development. An in-depth analysis of the performance can be found in the UN Disability Inclusion Strategy report, which is also available in an easy-to-read version. The findings demonstrate that our current resources and capacity are effectively applied to uphold performance across most indicators and enhance our efforts in a few others. To sustain and further improve our performance across all indicators, additional resources and enhanced capacity is not needed. In this regard, the continued support for member states and other actors to fully implement UNDIS is greatly appreciated. I'd like to now turn to the introduction of the written reports, beginning with the report of the High Commissioner on the year-long activities regarding commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the 30th anniversary of the Vienna Declaration and Program of Action. The Human Rights 75 initiative, launched on 10 December 2022, offered a unique opportunity for collective reflection on the remarkable progress made since the adoption of the Universal Declaration, on some of the ongoing gaps in protection of human rights for all, and on what can be done to effectively strengthen human rights protection and promotion worldwide. Acknowledging the many and growing challenges facing the global community, stakeholders expressed their recommitment to the universality and indivisibility of human rights. For human rights to be truly universal, all human rights must be enjoyed on equal footing, rejecting selectivity and double standards and recognizing at all times their indivisibility. The initiative, the high-level event, and the outreach campaign were widely promoted on social media and digital platforms, reaching 193.2 million people. The report outlines the numerous activities during the year-long initiative. These included the organization of over 160 national and regional events supported by OHCHR, leading to recommendations, commitments, and pledges. A campaign to increase adherence to human rights treaties, which resulted in 24 new ratifications by states already. Further pledges were received from 23 states for an additional 43 ratifications of core human rights treaties and optional protocols. The report highlights how the Human Rights 75 initiative helped expand the network of actors engaged in human rights, including through a youth advisory group, which integrated youth perspectives in the activities of the Human Rights 75 initiative through its work on a youth declaration. The Human Rights 75 initiative culminated in a high-level event on 11-12 December held in this room in Geneva, connected with online hubs in Bangkok, Nairobi, and Panama. The event gathered over 130 countries, 16 heads of state or of government, and 58 other high-level dignitaries, along with other stakeholders. Over 2,200 people participated across the 4 locations, and many more joined online, including through the virtual conference room. The uptake on Human Rights 75 pledges was strong, with 782 pledges made. 520 pledges were received from 142 states, in addition to 7 joint pledges representing nearly 80% of all states. 255 pledges were received from other actors. Effective follow-up to Human Rights 75 pledges is key to maintain this momentum and help achieve positive change. The High Commissioner's vision statement of February 2024, entitled Human Rights, A Path for Solutions, contains 8 key messages to ensure that human rights are at the center of renewed action for peace, economies that work for people and planet, effective governance, and guardrails for digital and scientific progress. The vision statement recommends that states prioritize the implementation of the full spectrum of human rights, including the right to development and the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment without discrimination of any kind. It emphasizes human rights as a path for solutions to the world's most pressing challenges and for a revitalized multilateralism, calling for human rights to be placed at the center of national, regional, and international governance systems. The statement stresses that peace and security, development, and human rights are the pillars of the United Nations systems and are interlinked and mutually reinforcing. It calls then for recognition of the equal value and importance of these pillars by committing to strengthening the human rights pillar so it is robust, effective, impartial, and transparent, including ensuring a significant increase in resources for OHCHR to enable it to effectively carry out its mandate. I'm now pleased to present the analytical study on key challenges in ensuring access to medicines, vaccines, and other health products in the context of the right of everyone to the enjoyment of the highest attainable standards of physical and mental health, submitted pursuant to Resolution 5013. The report identifies key challenges which limit the availability and accessibility of access to medicines, vaccines, and other health products, particularly for marginalized population groups. It also examines the special challenges faced by low and middle-income countries, as well as in emergency situations. The report finds that systemic access barriers, such as inadequate regulatory frameworks, impede access to quality, safety, and efficacy of medicines and medical products. The report also highlights the impact of intellectual property and trade-related agreements, along with commercially driven approaches to research and development, on the pricing of medicines, vaccines, and other health products. The report authors pathways for strengthening health systems, emphasizing the centrality of moving towards universal health coverage to maximize access to medicines, vaccines, and other products. It also stresses the need to step up efforts to mobilize adequate additional domestic and international resources and highlights the need for reducing debt and debt servicing. The report reaffirms that ensuring the right to health, including access to medicines and vaccines, is a fundamental obligation of states under international human rights law. It calls upon pharmaceutical companies and other business entities to respect this right and actively contribute to its realization. It also calls for collaborative efforts of various stakeholders to address access barriers. I'll turn now to the High Commissioner's report on cross-border and transnational female genital mutilation. This report provides an overview of the situation of women and girls affected by female genital mutilation and the efforts made by states and other stakeholders to counter it. In particular, the report reaffirms that female genital mutilation constitutes a human rights violation and a form of gender-based violence against women and girls that is inherently linked to deep-rooted gender inequality and stereotypes. It points out that the human rights framework provides states with a roadmap for developing effective laws, policy, programs, and other initiatives, including through international and regional cooperation to prevent and address cross-border and transnational female genital mutilation. Finally, the report highlights the need to strengthen data collection, harmonize legal and policy frameworks, and strengthen regional and international cooperation and systematic coordination among states and other key stakeholders, including civil society, as key steps for the eradication of cross-border and transnational female genital mutilation. In his report on conscientious objection to military service, the High Commissioner, building on previous reporting, focuses on 5 key areas: First, the report examines state practice in the recognition of the right to conscientious objection in their domestic laws, the adoption of exceptions to the right, and the negative consequences faced by conscientious objectors in situations where legal recognition of the right is lacking. The report recommends that states recognize the right in their domestic legal systems in a manner applicable to all forms of thought, conscience, or religion, in all contexts, and to all forms of military service. Second, the report examines procedures of recognition of conscientious objection status and challenges persisting in the practice of states. It recommends that states consider accepting claims of conscientious objection without inquiry, and that states retaining a system of inquiry of claims of conscientious objection should review their procedures to ensure that they preserve and respect the dignity of individuals, the privacy of those concerned, and that the process be under civilian control. Third, the report highlights difficulties to achieve refugee status for reasons of conscience by conscientious objectors in some states. The report recommends that states should respect and protect the rights of conscientious objectors arriving from third states, including through adherence to the principle of non-refoulement and international human rights and refugee law, and implementation and dissemination of guidance on the interpretation of applicable international law. Fourth, the report reviews alternatives to military service and different practices adopted by states in this regard. The report recommends that states should consider removing compulsory alternative service for individuals exempted from military service. States retaining compulsory alternative service must ensure it is compatible with the reasons for conscientious objection, that it encompasses a variety of alternatives spanning various sectors, and that it must not be punitive or discriminatory. Fifth, with respect to other measures to respect and ensure the right to conscientious objection, the report recommends states to refrain from unduly restricting the rights of those advocating for the rights of conscientious objection to military service or conscientious objectors. States should further implement appropriate measures to foster a culture of respect for conscientious objection to military service within relevant parts of the public administration and in the broader society, and implement a participatory approach in the development and review of laws and policies related to conscientious objection to military service with the involvement of effective stakeholders. I would now like to return to the High Commissioner's report pursuant to Resolution 5110 on countering cyberbullying against persons with disabilities. The preparation of this report has been delayed, but the report should be available shortly in an advanced unedited version. This report focuses on the experiences of persons with disabilities with cyberbullying and the relevant human rights frameworks. It also outlines some of the prevailing trends and challenges to effectively address cyberbullying against persons with disabilities. Among those, it highlights limited awareness of the specific impacts of cyberbullying on persons with disabilities, privacy challenges, technology-facilitated sexual and gender-based violence, lack of legislation sensitive to the rights and needs of persons with disabilities, obstacles experienced by persons with disabilities to report their experiences and effectively articulate the harms they face online, intersectional risks and impacts of cyberbullying, and complex relationships between cyberbullying and offline social dynamics, including loneliness. The recommendations highlight that in all initiatives to prevent and counter cyberbullying, the agency and meaningful participation of persons with disabilities must be at the center. The High Commissioner recommends to states that they recognize and implement through legislative and policy frameworks the rights of persons with disabilities to be consulted on policies and initiatives countering cyberbullying against them, to put in place digital literacy initiatives to raise public awareness and develop and implement policies on bullying in schools and workplaces and pair them with creation of focal points, to carry out comprehensive training across social sectors on countering cyberbullying against persons with disabilities, including in schools, workplaces, healthcare, and law enforcement, and finally, to expand available resources for persons with disabilities who have experienced, been involved in, or have witnessed cyberbullying, including psychosocial support and mental health services. The High Commissioner recommends that technology companies systematically undertake human rights due diligence in the design, development, and use of technological products and services, Ensure mechanisms and channels available for the reporting of cyberbullying are accessible to all persons with disabilities, including children. And finally, actively consult persons with disabilities and their representative organizations, including in the conduct of human rights due diligence, to understand their concerns around cyberbullying and related barriers to their safe participation in digital spaces. Next, I'd like to draw your attention to the High Commissioner's report on the role of public service delivery in the promotion and protection of human rights in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. It highlights how public service delivery contributes to the realization of human rights, including the rights to social security, health, and education, as well as care and support, while accelerating SDG progress. Persons in vulnerable situations are particularly reliant on efficient and non-discriminatory public service delivery to realize their economic, social, and cultural rights. They are particularly impacted by challenges to public service delivery, including corruption, insufficient resources, and discrimination. A strengthening the rule of law, improving good governance, and applying human rights as policy guardrails can help mitigate these challenges. A human rights-based approach to public service delivery is underpinned by equality and non-discrimination, transparency, accountability, and the meaningful participation of rights holders. The report underscores that the importance of adequate regulation and monitoring of public service delivery, including of private actors, along with effective accountability mechanisms. It also highlights the key role of local governments in public service delivery. Digital technology, including artificial intelligence, has the potential to increase accessibility, participation, and transparency in public service delivery. However, it also comes with considerable risks. Human rights should underpin regulatory frameworks on the use of technology for public service delivery. States must ensure that the security and privacy of personal information in the digital realm. They should also ensure non-discriminatory access to digitalized public services and address the underlying challenge of the digital divide. The report encourages states to adopt a human rights economy approach, which includes assessing economic policies, budgets, and public procurement for their potential human rights impacts. I'm pleased to present as well the report of the High Commissioner on the implementation and enhancement of international cooperation in the field of human rights. It contains relevant activities carried out from 1 April 2023 to 31 March 24 in light of our common agenda and the Secretary General's call to action for human rights. Against the backdrop of the 75th anniversary of the UDHR, the High Commissioner called repeatedly for enhanced international cooperation and international solidarity to better protect and promote human rights. He encouraged more dialogue, more creative solutions, sharp thinking, and expanded partnerships to support and innovate the global constituency for human rights. He cautioned that instrumentalizing human rights for political ends or disregarding them would threaten social cohesion and undermine international cooperation. The report provides emblematic examples of the various types of activities OHCHR has organized or supported to enhance international cooperation in the field of human rights. This includes OHCHR's support to the work of UN human rights mechanisms. The report emphasizes that an economy grounded in human rights and a reform of the international financial architecture with human rights at the heart are key to addressing deepening inequalities across the globe. It highlights the importance of enhancing intergenerational solidarity and meaningful engagement of young people and looks forward to the Summit of the Future to reaffirm the spirit of international cooperation and strengthen the human rights pillar of the UN. The report concludes that while states remain central to efforts to meet global challenges, non-state actors are increasingly recognized for their fundamental role in advancing human rights. In his analytical report on arms transfers and human rights, including the diversion of arms and unregulated or illicit arms transfers on the enjoyment of human rights, the High Commissioner examines the role of access to information in preventing, mitigating, and responding to the negative human rights impacts of arms transfers. The report notes that access to relevant information is a precondition for effective oversight over arms transfers. It contributes to improving the quality of decision-making and facilitates access to justice and effective remedies for victims of violations. In this regard, the report noted successful attempts of challenging arms transfers to the parties to several conflicts on the basis of concerns for human rights and humanitarian law violations. At the same time, access to information on arms transfer is very limited in most regions of the world. This gap remains a significant hurdle in accessing effective external oversight over arms transfer decision-making. Even with respect to states that do make information available, the sum of that information is often not sufficient to effectively prevent and ensure accountability for negative human rights impacts associated with arms transfers. Concern also remains relating to the reliability and accessibility of that information. There are also concerns related to the undue restriction of access to information on arms transfers. In the few attempts identified at gaining access to information through court challenges, the success of such efforts remained uneven. In order to address these concerns, the report recommends that states make sufficient information publicly available in accessible formats in order to ensure public oversight. Importantly, it recommends that states, first, make available disaggregated and identifiable information on approved licenses, rejected license requests, actual arms exports, the authorized end user, and the authorized end use. Second, disclose risk assessment criteria and risk assessments related to international human rights law and international humanitarian law, as well as the factual basis for those assessments. The report also highlights information that companies in the defense sector have shown reluctance to disclose information that relates to their human rights impacts, perceiving this as potentially damaging to their reputations. In this regard, it recommends that business entities adhere to the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights and take active steps to publicly report on the potential adverse human rights impacts associated with their operations and preventative or mitigating measures they have taken in that respect. The final report I'd like to introduce to you today is the feasibility study on developing a digital system for the Human Rights Council submitted to the pursuant to Presidential Statement OS-17-1. The study considers the feasibility of developing an integrated and accessible digital information and knowledge management system relating to the tools and activities of the Council, building on existing tools and experiences, and contributing to the Council's efficiency and effectiveness. To reach its assessment, the OHCHR engaged with stakeholders to capture diverse perspectives and requirements and conducted a technical analysis to evaluate the feasibility of existing systems and to identify opportunities for enhancement. The study identified several key themes of improvement in the areas of streamlining of processes, improving accessibility and usability, enhancing collaboration and engagement, utilizing data analytics and insight, which could be realized through integration and enhancement of the systems provided to the Council. As part of modernizing OHCHR's digital infrastructure, OHCHR developed the Events platform to consolidate and streamline Human Rights Council processes. The Events platform has been successfully used in the digital drawing of lots and facilitating advanced question submissions to the Universal Periodic Review. Its capacities have been extended for the HRC56 session, managing oral and written statements and side events. Interviews revealed a strong interest in using artificial intelligence to improve efficiency and accuracy in information and knowledge management. Stakeholders are eager to automate repetitive tasks and streamline operations, although some caution against over-reliance on AI was expressed. To prudently incorporate AI and enhance operational efficiency, recommendations include using AI for document management, drafting assistance, research facilitation, and virtual assistance, all with proper respect for human rights guardrails on AI use. Stakeholders highlighted the need for greater efficiency in managing documents within the Human Rights Council. Automating this document flow with features like document routing, tracking, and notifications is recommended. Additionally, developing a digital platform for timely access to draft resolutions, identifying sponsors, and categorizing drafts by topic would enhance collaboration and improve the Council's effectiveness. The report also emphasizes the need to improve the usability and accessibility of Human Rights Council data currently spread across outdated extranets and websites to enhance the Council's effectiveness. Recommendations include redesigning these platforms for better navigation and search functionality and developing an open data platform that would serve as an integrated and accessible digital information and knowledge management system with advanced analytics capabilities. To improve stakeholder engagement in the work of the Council, the report recommends implementing multilingual digital online engagement solutions to overcome obstacles such as geographic and language barriers. Additionally, it proposes to develop a real-time mobile-friendly notification system. Stakeholders recognize the importance of quantifiable metrics to assess the impact of technological advances on workflow and operations. To seize this opportunity, comprehensive metrics reflecting the efficiency and effectiveness of new technological systems should be designed and implemented, involving a multidisciplinary team in the development process. Prioritizing scalability and adaptability along with regular reviews and updates will be crucial for continuously improving operational efficiency. In conclusion, the study describes actionable insights poised to enhance the digital infrastructure and operational effectiveness of the Human Rights Council. The implementation of the recommendations is expected to facilitate informed decision-making, improve stakeholder engagement, and advance the promotion and protection of human rights globally, aligning with the Secretary General's data strategy. By embracing digital solutions, the Human Rights Council can strengthen its capacity to address human rights issues and fulfill its mandate effectively in the digital age. Thank you very much for your attention.